Hi, welcome. This is going to be the first video in a challenge series I'm going to be doing, where the purpose is to beat all of Warframe while remaining at MR0, with a lot of other restrictions involved. However, this challenge has been done before. So, what makes this different? Well, for one, the entire challenge is going to be completed solo only. Additionally, there's a wider list of restrictions that I'll list here to prevent the challenge from being too easy. This took me a lot of effort to make, so if you liked it, consider subscribing. And if you want to come see me do this challenge live, my Twitch channel is in the description, and I'll be streaming here on YouTube too. So, unfortunately, while my initial goal for the challenge was to beat everything in Warframe, I was quickly informed that there's one node on Earth that's hard locked behind Mastery Rank 5, which means getting Steel Path is physically impossible. I'm not discouraged though, as my main goal is still going to be unlocking Netrocells and Deep Archimedia. I didn't have any particular rhyme or reason to my starter frame, I just started with mag due to my stream's popular vote. So, with the rules and my goals out of the way, I finally finished the tutorial, rushing through at record pace and getting into the game and the very first quest, Vor's Prize. So, I'll quickly work my way through the few starter missions in the quest, setting up each of the segments aboard my ship. Then, I'll take out Vor to complete our very first quest and get into our first important goal of the challenge. My first primary goal is to complete the Mars Junction. This is my most important stop for the entire challenge, as it'll allow me access to Deimos, which is phase 1 of my plan, to unlock the Necromech as quickly as possible. The Necromech is one of 4 key steps in getting to Warframe's late game, and along with it being one of the most challenging and unforgiving grinds in Warframe, it's my very first goal. First up on the list of things to do to unlock Mars is to complete the Venus Junction. I've already completed the Vor's Prize quest, and while I can quickly upgrade a mod for the final task, the middle requirement here is much more tedious. For that, we're going to need to head over to Cetus, the open world area on Earth, and complete the Saya's Vigil quest. This quest takes us through finding a lost person who had mysteriously disappeared years prior, important to a few of the Cetus townsfolk. My aim here is to collect all of the glass pieces to reforge the key to a locked container, which is supposed to have the secret to finding the missing person. After some dialogue, I'll head out onto the plains and start my mission. It's not too time consuming and has a few rewards beyond just a necessity for the junction. The Gara blueprint is nice for the future in case I just happen to want to use her, but more importantly, it'll unlock the Plains of Eidolon as an open world, which may come in handy later. And with that, the Venus Junction is now complete. Now, I'm just going to need to complete the Mercury Junction, and we'll be one step closer to the Mars Junction. Unlike the Venus one, though, this is going to be a little tougher. I'll need to finish the Vox Solaris quest over on our second open world, Fortuna. Along with that, I'll need to run through a 10-wave defense mission, along with beating our first real boss, the Jackal. I'll do a quick mission node to get to Fortuna, then I'll head over there and start the next quest I'll need to complete. Here, we're tasked with helping a Fortuna resident out of debt. While we ultimately fail in that mission, it ends up spurring the other people to take action and stand up for themselves against the Corpus Greed here in Fortuna. Finally, we then make moves to thwart Nef Anyo, the Corpus leader on the Orbellist, and his plans. Here, I'm going to upgrade my mods a little bit with the endo I have, mostly prioritizing flat stat mods on one weapon, and some early health and shields just to be able to sweep bosses and generally just have a better time once I get into mid-game missions. And speaking of bosses, I'm headed over to kill the Jackal now, the very first boss on our long list of them that we're going to have to take out. It's a fairly simple boss, just requiring that I dodge a few lasers here and there, destroying each of his limbs until it finally goes down. And the Jackal is down. Finally, for the Mercury Junction, I'll quickly complete 10 waves of this defense mission. With that, Mercury Junction out of the way. One of the biggest and most relevant issues that I'm going to have is definitely figuring out which frame I want to run the entire game with. I don't really intend to stick with Mag, as she's good, but doesn't really provide a lot of offense that I think I'm going to need for the late game. My initial plan for Warframes is to either get Zaku, Dagath, or Kalervo. These are all great choices because they provide offensive buffs to weapons while also having some survivability. For all the time-consuming tasks of the previous junction, the Mars Junction is actually extremely simple. All I have to do is complete the Once Awake quest and grab a little more of the Rubedo resource, which will only take a few minutes. I'll hop right into the Once Awake quest immediately, which takes place on Mercury. It follows the outbreak of an ancient bioweapon called the Infestation, and we learn more about it at the same time we're trying to purge it as quickly as possible. Soon enough, we have the quest done, and it's finally time for our first little mini objective to be complete. The Mars Junction, finished. With that, there's only a couple of things left to do before we actually begin our first major goal, being the Necromech. I'm going to head on over to Deimos from Mars, clearing a path there in no time. On the way, I just happened to take out our next boss, Lek Krill, who wasn't really much of a threat at all. Now, there's one last final open world quest for me to do, located at the Necrolisk. We're here to mend the super dysfunctional infested family that lives here on Deimos, and to do that, we'll need to save the infested moon itself from total destruction. After meeting all the family members, we're quickly rushed off to inspect the heart that keeps Deimos alive. After quickly discovering that it's definitely not working, we devise a plan to fix it, and promptly do just that. Using a Rento Necromech, we head into the depths of the Cambion Drift, fighting off an enemy Necromech and using our repair tool to mend the heart, saving the family and ourselves. The quest being finished, let the grind for the Necromech begin.